Welcome back to
The Hot Pot. I'm Princess May, aka The Princess.
And I'm Tracy, aka The DJ. As you can tell, we have a different setup today. We're filming in person.
Yes, and today we are excited to have Janice on the show. She'll be talking about chronic myths about health and nutrition. Hi Janice, welcome to The Hot Pot. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
very excited.
Thanks for being here. Could you just introduce yourself and kind of a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. So hi everyone, my name is Janice Chow. I'm a registered dietitian based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I currently own my private practice called The Mindful Chow, which offers weight-inclusive nutrition counseling for the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities. I previously, before I started my private practice, I worked at several clinical and community education settings. And yeah, at my work, I use health at every size, trauma-informed care, and intuitive eating. So that's a little bit about my background.
Great, yeah, thank you so much for all of the incredible work you're doing. What inspired you to get into this work?
I first got interested in healthcare because my mom is a nurse in Hong Kong. So it really sparked interest to just explore career paths within healthcare. And like a lot of Asian kids, I chose pre-med when I go to college, but realized it's not my thing. I took a nutrition class as a prerequisite, and it turned out to be so much fun because it combines two things I like, which is food and science. So fast forward, I become a registered dietitian, and then I started stumbling across, there are other factors beyond just diet and exercise that impact health. And that let me question a little bit how I was working with my patients. I stumbled across the health at every size approach, and it promotes health equity, it supports ending weight discrimination, and also improving quality health care for people regardless of their body sizes. So that has been aligned with me since then.
How do your clients typically find you? Are they referred, or do you have a typical client that you see?
So my clients are usually from the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander population, and most of my clients find me through word of mouth, actually. So I have physicians and therapists that work locally in the area, and they gave me a lot of referrals. So very appreciative of that. And also some clients find me online, like Google, when they type in keyword Asian dietitian, Bay Area, or something along the lines as eating disorder or disordered eating, weight inclusive, I usually pop up right there. Yeah, so those are kind of my main sources.
Great, thank you. Kind of pivoting a little, what does a healthy diet mean to you, or is it based on every individual you meet?
Yeah, great question. I would first ask, what does healthy really mean, right? I think health means very different things for different people. I'll give a crude example. So if, eating an apple, it might consider to be pretty healthy, quote unquote healthy. But it would not be healthy if someone has like an apple allergy, right? Or someone who can't tolerate that much fiber from food, then apple might not be one of the choices that person could tolerate. So going back to your question, I think it's highly individualized and just tailored to different person's background and genetics and how the body is.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I feel like health in general is just so individual, but unfortunately with, the systems we have, it's kind of one size fits all in a lot of ways. So I appreciate you saying it's very individually based. Going along those lines, how do you approach talking with your patients in a way that takes into account their cultural background?
So I would say the key factors to build trust, that's the one thing that I always do at the beginning. So through speaking, I would explain who I am and what I do. I think most people haven't had a chance to work with a nutrition professional before. So sometimes they come in, they don't really know what to expect, but it helps to let them know how you are able to help them or support them. So other than that, then just be more sensitive to maybe the preferred name, preferred pronouns, you know, their cultural background, practices that I should be aware of, a family history as well. And I would always ask, is there something that I should be aware of, like you don't want me to talk about or I shouldn't be doing? So I have patients previously that they are from different cultures. I have to speak to the head of the family first before I could speak to the actual patient. So respecting that, we would have to do that. Okay, I'm going to talk to you and then I'm going to talk to your family member. So that's kind of how, in terms of speaking. And then in terms of developing plans, you know, just making sure that, you know, I'm collaborating with the client to meet them where they're at. And then make sure to acknowledge and really validate their concerns. Sometimes they really want to feel listened to and just someone knowing what they're going through. So these are some of the things that I pay attention to when I speak to clients from different cultural backgrounds.
Yeah, and I think that's a great practice of cultural humility because the AA and HPI community is so diverse. So it's good that you're giving individualized experiences and kind of tailoring to those experiences that they have and they're like approaching their different families. And so like when you're approaching these different clients, they know usually that diet affects their well-being and how they can approach that. But what are some steps that you kind of tailor to specific clients to incorporate that into their daily lives?
Yeah, so I would want to clarify that diet does play a role in our health, but it's not the biggest contributing factor. Individual factors like diet, exercise, stress, harmful behaviors like smoking, they only account for about 36% of the factors that influence our health, which some of you might have heard as social determinants of health. So the rest of the 64% comes from things that are beyond our control. Basically, it's genetics, you know, environmental disasters, or you know, something along the lines of social circumstances. So some of those, it's really hard for us to make immediate changes. So it's most importantly to think that, okay, I'm trying my best, but at the same time, there are other things beyond my control, and that's okay. If someone who wants to improve their well-being through nutrition, I would definitely encourage them. There are some basic principles that you could be aware of. First is like making sure that your nutrition needs are met adequately, and then making sure there's balance and variety from different nutrients. And then also building a stronger connection between your physical and mental parts of your body. Stress does a lot of things to our bodies other than diet and exercise. But by listening closer to your body, like hunger, fullness cues, how do you cope with different types of emotions? Do you feel safe in your body? So some of those ways would also help improve the overall being.
Thanks for sharing that. Is there a time where you kind of interacted with the patient and maybe because of their cultural background or traditional beliefs, maybe they were not into the most healthy practice, and like how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so I recall I had a patient in a dialysis center I used to work at. She actually doesn't really believe in physicians that practice Western medicine. So because of her condition, her kidneys have failed, right? So she would need dialysis to help clean out the toxins, waste from her body. But unfortunately, it's very challenging if someone's not really trusting what is going on, and then At the same time, the patient was also taking a lot of herbal remedies, and it could contraindicate with the medications that she's taking. So it was very challenging, but what we ended up doing is just going by and just checking in on her, asking how she's doing. We actually shift our focus not on the treatment, but just more like chatting with her, knowing about her story. Eventually, she's opening up a little bit more. So when I left my job, obviously I don't know how her outcome is, but you know, we were building trust in that process. So I think just be mindful. I try to be mindful of these potential conflicts that might happen in the AANHPI communities versus maybe Western medicine, and just have a conversation about it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Coming from parents who are immigrants, there's some, I guess, hesitancy of going to like a nutritionist or just the doctor, but having that more conversational approach makes a huge difference. I mean, kind of going off of that, just sharing how you visit different clients, I know that cost can be another big concern for some folks, especially in this economic climate that we're in. Do you have any tips or suggestions for people who are trying to eat healthy on a budget or see a nutritionist or anything like that?
Yeah, so first off, I would say it's really hard to get, maybe it's pretty hard to get access to seeing a dietitian. But you know, keep asking your physician, like primary care physician, and see if that's possible and if it's covered by your insurance. But if not, there are some couple tips that could help people still eat pretty nutritiously while on a budget. First, I highly encourage to buy frozen and canned vegetables and fruits because they have a longer shelf life and they're still nutritious. But I do know some people are, they pay more attention to the sodium content in canned vegetables. So I would suggest just rinse them before you cook them. That would take out most of the sodium. A second tip would be, buying generic store brands. Like for example, Safeway would have their own milk versus if you buy Horizon, which will maybe double the price. And if you still want brand name, and if you have time, then look for like manufacturer coupons, or maybe there's discount going on at the grocery store. So those are just a little bit more time consuming. And lastly, it's something that I like to do is to check out the discounted aisle or section at the grocery store. Yes, sometimes there are fruits and vegetables that might be moldy, but don't pick that. Just be safe. But maybe there are fruits that just have a tiny bump, but they're still pretty good, and they're usually at a way lower cost than regular produce.
Yeah, that's a great idea. My mom actually does that. Yeah. We're actually going to do kind of like a myth-busting round. Okay. So we're going to just have common myths people believe in about the diet. The first one is breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah, I get that a lot. So I would say all meals are equally important. I think it really depends. If you wake up feeling hungry, listen to your body and eat breakfast. But if you skip because you're busy one morning, don't feel guilty about it. If you don't usually feel hungry right after you wake up, which a lot of people feel that way. I would say just wait until a comfortable time, maybe the first 1 or 2 hours after you wake up, check in with yourself, see if you're feeling hungry, and account for if you habitually skip breakfast, then make sure you optimize your nutrient intakes throughout the day, at the later meals. So yeah, breakfast is important, but also other meals as well.
Yeah, the next myth is you shouldn't eat anything after 7 p.m.
Okay, yeah, I also get that a lot as well. So our body actually doesn't have a switch, and after 7 p.m., okay, stop digesting and working. And a lot of scientific research show that it's not that different when someone eats and digests food early in the day versus after 7 p.m. Our bodies still work to process them. I would say unless you tend to eat later at night and then it's really close to your bedtime, and if it's bothering you, let's say you're feeling heartburn or you have digestive, like bloating before you go to bed, then maybe it's good to shift your meal time a little bit earlier, or maybe have a smaller meal when it's so close to bedtime. So kind of adjustments based on the individual.
Okay, yeah. That's good to hear, because I'm definitely guilty of like midnight snacking. The next one is low fat and low sugar foods are healthier.
So like I said, it's very individualized. Fat and sugar, they are macronutrients that our body need, and they exist for a reason. Fat helps to improve, it impacts hormonal balance and helps to protect cell functions. And then sugar is the primary energy source for our body. So those are definitely essential, but some people might be watching their blood sugar, then they might have to be mindful of the sugar intake. But, you know, like I said, it's very individualized, right? So it's not, low fat and low sugar is not always healthier. It really depends on the person.
Yeah, so really just being mindful of what we're consuming and if that affects us in any way. Yeah, how about a detox diet? Like, does that cleanse the body, like juice cleanses?
Yeah, well, I hear that a lot, especially when I tune on the radio. Like, they always promote about detox diets or juice cleanses. There's not much research done on detox diets in general, and then there's so many varieties of them, so the lack of research doesn't really help because we don't really know. But some things that we do observe is people who tend to go on a detox diet, they would often have inadequate energy intake. So that could contribute to a lot of things like muscle loss, or maybe, you know, exacerbate another condition that could arise from inadequate energy intake. So something to be mind of, like, I don't promote it, but I do respect someone's choice to do it. However, just be aware of the harm and be a little bit skeptical of their effects.
Okay. Good to know, thank you. And last, we have weight loss could help improve most chronic diseases. Yeah,
so that is definitely not true, because you know, when we look at some of the biggest studies that look into weight, you know, the first one is 95% of diets usually fail, and most people would tend to lose and regain weight. And this is a phenomenon called weight cycling. And weight cycling actually have more research backed up that causes a lot of harm to our bodies. So it will actually increase our blood pressure, increase our blood sugar, it will increase a lot of chronic inflammation, and then muscle loss again. So given the fact that like weight cycling is harmful, still going back to the root, like, you know, focusing on the health promoting behavior, not just the number on the scale. So, you know, eating a nutritious diet, moving your body, you know, as you like, managing your stress, those are more important than just that number.
Great, thank you so much. Is there any closing thoughts or words of advice you'd like to give our audience before we close?
I would just say, you know, when we think about health, just think of it as an individualized approach. And sometimes what you hear in the media might not necessarily be the best approach to manage your own condition. So if you're in doubt, seek a professional help, like a registered dietitian or nutritionist that could just help to kind of help you research and then look at the evidence.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, Janice.
Thank you.
We learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you for being our first in-person guest.
Yeah, I'm so honored. Thank you.
Thanks.